So these are the answers to the mixed questions that we've been making. So we've been making some of our own exam questions just based off past exams. So these are not actual past exam questions, but we've just kind of adapted them. But yeah, let's get to it. So these first questions usually are pretty straightforward. So let's have a go at this one. So the first question just says, what's the value of x? So what is that power? So just give it a bit of a trial and error. We know that it's got to be bigger than 4 because that would be 81. So in this question, x equals 5. The next question for 3 marks wants us to find the value of a and b and give the surds in the simplest form. So in this question, if we're going to be adding 2 surds together, we know that we have to have both surds with the same root to be able to add or subtract them. And it gives us a clue here. We should be able to write them both as root 2. So first, let's simplify that first one. So this is root 16 times by root 2. And then we obviously know that root 16 is 4. And then root 2. So in this question, in order to add, to get 7 root 2, I know that the root in the second question has to be 2. How many do I need? I need 3. Because 4 and 3 is 7. So in this question, we know that A is going to be 3 and B is 2. You don't write root 2 because the root's already there. And that's for 3 marks. Right, the next one for 2 marks, we need to find out what D and E is. Don't need that. Right, so we're multiplying 2 fractions together, but it wants us to write it as powers of 2 and 5. So we need to change each fraction. So the first one we can write as 2 to the power of 1. And then we can times it by 5 to the power of negative 1. Okay, so that's your rules of negative powers. The second fraction, I know that 25, is 5 squared. And I know that 4 is 2 squared. So we have to write them with either the base of 2 or 5 to answer this question. So I can write multiply the top, which is 5 squared. And then to bring the 2 squared up, it just changes to a negative. So now we have some of the bases the same. That's a 2, sorry. So 2 to the power of negative 1 times by 5 to the power of positive 1. So D is negative 1 and E is just 1. Okay, because you add the powers together when the base is the same. Right, let's move on to this next question then. So it says, Georgie is having a birthday party and we have a slice of cake. It tells us the diameter of the cake is 24. So in your e-assessment, you'll have some tools at the top maybe where you can draw on the diagram. So the first thing I would do here, because this is a sector, that means that the radius is 12 because it's half the diameter. Then we carry on going and it says, okay, the slice of cake is being cut, so it is 60 degrees. That tells us that here. And it says the cake has got 2 different colours of icing, which is blue and red. So let's go and actually read the question. It says, find the area of the red icing on the cake. So what the first thing we should do is what you have to do to actually get this bit. So the red section is just that top, okay? So how are we going to get that top bit? So the first thing you need to do is, well, we could work out the area of the whole sector, which is 12 centimetres. Then we could take away just the blue sector, which was 9, and that would leave us with just the red section left. Okay, so first thing you should do, how are you going to answer the question? Then the second thing we're going to do is actually answer that question. Okay, so what do? Well, we know that the angle is 60 degrees. So 60 divided by 360 times by the area of a circle, which is pi times 12 squared for the first one. And then we're going to just take away the blue sector, which is 336 over 360 times by pi, and that's going to give you 9 squared, okay? And then that's going to give us the red section. So if we actually work that out, we're going to have 75.39 subtract 42.41, and the answer for this question is 32.41 0.99 centimeters squared. Okay, where you mark someone here, you're going to have one mark for this section, 1 mark for working out these each, and then 1 mark for the answer. Okay, right, question 2, it's only probably worth 2 marks, it's a bit of a mistake. So it says the height of the cake is actually 7 centimeters. So if we go to this diagram over here, okay, we're just looking at the moment at the top of the cake where the icing is. We now know that the height is actually 7 centimeters. And then the question says, well, can we calculate the volume of the slice of cake? Well, we've already worked out the actual area of the cross section at the top, haven't we? We worked it out over here, which is 75.39 centimeters squared. And then to work out the volume, you just have to multiply that by 7 centimeters. So your answer for this question is 527.73 centimeters cubed. Okay, and that's a nice easy 6 marks. Right, the next bit then, we're going to scroll down, is a probability question. And I forgot to rub that out, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so here we have some students go to middle year school and they need to pick their subjects for next year. It tells us that they're going to pick either Spanish, French, and some want to do both. So for 1 mark, okay, it says that set A represents female students. So set A is up here. And set B represents the number of students that want to do Spanish. For 1 mark, write down the number of students who choose Spanish. So that's just checking that you know how to use a Venn diagram. So you're just going to add them together. So your answer is 45 students. Right, the next bit for 4 marks is where we need to think a little bit. It says the 7 male students pick Spanish and French. Okay, so I'm going to use a Venn diagram to help me here. So this is just for male students. So male, 7 do Spanish and French. Then it says 22 students pick neither, so that goes on the outside of the Venn diagram. And then it says if a male student's chosen at random, what's the probability that they choose only French? So this one here. Well, there's something I haven't worked out yet. It's how many male students I have. Okay, so in total there's 125 students. We were told that set A was for female. So if I subtract just the female, which is the blue circle, that's going to be 61. 43 and 18 is 61. So that means I have 64 male students. Okay. Then if I look at the diagram again, it tells me that the Spanish students, 18 of them were girls. So that means the 27 that are in this section are male. So in the Venn diagram, that means 20 students only do, male students only do Spanish, because that whole circle should be 27. Now, if I add these together, I know that it has to equal 64 male, but it doesn't. So whatever left over goes in the French, which is 15 students. Okay, so 15 students in this question only do French. Right, and then we go down to the next question. It says, oh, sorry, that's not the answer. Probability is 15 out of 64. That's the answer. Right, next question. Write down the number of male students who did not pick Spanish. Well, the only students that didn't pick Spanish were the 15 and the 22 in here. So 15, add your 22, and that means 37 students, male students, didn't do Spanish. Okay, right, let's move on to the next question then. So here we have a triangle, and it tells me the area is 40, and the question at the side says, can we work out the value of x? Okay, so I know the area of a triangle is a half base times height. So my base in this question and my height, 10x and x plus 2, and I need to just divide that by 2. That's the same as multiplying by a half. The answer for this should be 40 centimeters squared. So if I first expand the bracket at the top, I'm going to have 10x squared plus 20x divided by 2, and that's going to give me 40 centimeters squared. So what am I going to do next? I'm going to divide everything by 2 on the left. So 5x squared, oh, I've missed the x, plus 10x equals 40 centimetres squared. Everything in this question is divisible by 5, so let's divide everything by 5. So x squared plus 2x equals 8. This is a quadratic. If you want to solve a quadratic, you have to make it equal 0. How are we going to do that? Minus 8 from both sides. And then you can use the quadratic formula, or in this question, we can actually factorise. So two numbers that times to give me negative 8, but add to give me 2. It's plus 4 and minus 2. So if I'm solving, that means x is negative 4 or x is 2. Because we're talking about the length, the negative 4 is not going to work. So my answer here is x equals 2. Right? If we then go over to this question, which is just a mark, it wants me to work out the base and the height. So the base is going to be 2 plus 2, which is 4. And the height is going to be 10 times 2, which is 20. Okay? Centimetres. Right, let's go and have a little look at the next question then. So this one is worth 4 marks. So we have a Venn diagram again. We've got R and we've got M for roadblocks and Minecrafts. It wants us to work out based on the information given, can we do A and B? So first thing I'm going to look at is for roadblocks. So if I add 3A and 4 with B and 2A, that has to equal 30. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, let's simplify. So 5A plus B plus 4 is 30. Well, I can actually move the 4 over. So 5A plus B equals 26. And that is for roadblocks. Let's go and do the same for Minecrafts. So I'm going to add this and this together. So B plus 2A plus A minus 3B, that has to equal 26. So if we simplify it, 3A minus 2B is 26. Okay, right? Now because I've got two unknowns, you should be thinking, well, this is going to be simultaneous equations. I'm going to times this by 2, so the B's are the same. Okay, so over on the right, I'm going to write it over here. I'm going to have 10A plus 2B equals 52. To eliminate the B's, I need to add them together. So 13A, the B's will disappear, and that is 78. So if you divide both sides by 13, that means A is 6. So if A is 6, substitute it into any one of these. I'm going to do the first one that I had. So that means 30 plus B is 26. So that means B has to be negative 4. Right, the next question then just says, find the number of people who play both. So both is obviously that middle section, which is B plus 2A. So negative 4 plus 2 times by 6. That means your answer for this question is 8. 8 play both. Right, let's move on to the last question then, which is 28 marks, and you all should know these questions by now. So we've got a pattern with some red squares and yellow squares, and we're going to investigate the squares in the pattern. So if we go down for 1 mark, it wants me to fill in the missing values in the table, and it's just looking at the red squares, which go 1, 3, 5, 7, so that's going to be 9 and 11. So describe in words 2 things that we notice. So it increases by plus 2 each time. And the second thing we notice, well, the difference is the same. It's an arithmetic sequence, isn't it? Okay, then it says, write down in the simplest form the general rule for R in terms of N. Well, if you look at the table, it's plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. So that means it's going to be 2n. However, it's not the 2 times table. The 2 times tables would be 2, 4, 6, and 8. So I would have to subtract 1 to get the actual rule. We're going to verify this rule. What does verify mean? Verify means you either substitute in 5 or 6. Okay, I'll do both just to show you. So n equals 5. So 2 times 5 minus 1 equals 9. That works. Or n equals 6. 2 times 6 minus 1 is 11. Okay, and you have to say that this matches your prediction. In the table, therefore, my rule is verified. Okay, you have to write that bit here to say it matches, so it verifies. Right, we're going to move on then. Same pattern. And then it says a couple of things at the bottom. It wants us to predict more values and record them in the table. It wants us to describe the total number of squares for t. Then it wants me to find the rule and then test, verify, and justify. Okay, I'm just going to go further down where I've got more space. So the table to begin with, the first one we've just done, which is 9 and 11, which we know is 2n minus 1. The second one is going up in plus 2, plus 6, plus 10. So you can see that the second difference here is 4. So I need to add 14, which is going to give me 32, and then add 18, which is going to give me 40. The next one is plus 4, plus 8, plus 12. So the second difference here is also plus 4, plus 4. So that means I need to add 16, which is going to give me 41. And I need to add 20, which will give you 61. Okay, so I've predicted more values in the table. So next thing I want to do is says, describe in words 2 patterns that we notice. Okay, so we notice that it's a quadratic sequence. And the second difference is plus 4 each time. Right, then it says, can we find the general rule? So let's go and do that. So we've got 1, 5, what else have we got? 13, 25. So we've already worked out up here that the second difference was plus 4. Yeah, plus 4. So because it's a quadratic, we just divide that by 2. And that tells me that the rule contains 2n squared. So if I go down here, if I write down what 2n squared produces, you're going to times your square numbers, which are 1, 4, 9, 16. We're going to times this by 2. So times it by 2, we're going to have 2, 10, 26, 50. And then I say, okay, well, how do I go from 2n squared to the actual sequence? This is going to be plus 1, plus 5. Oh, no, that's not right, is it? Sorry. That is minus 1, minus 5. Don't know why I wrote 26 there, that's not right. It's 18, isn't it? 2 times 9 is 18. So that's going to be... Oh, what have I done? Sorry. Let's go back. So we've got 2n squared. The first one is 2, 8. Oh, I times the sequence by 2. Sorry, you times your square numbers by 2. So that's going to be 18 and then 32. So to go from here to here, I have to minus 1, minus 3, minus 5, minus 7. So this is an arithmetic sequence in itself. Minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. So minus 2n. And then to go from negative 2 to negative 1, you have to plus 1. So 2n squared minus 2n plus 1 is the rule of t, the total number of squares. Okay? So if that's the total number of squares, that one's done. We need to test and verify. So if you test, we're going to put our numbers in that were from 1 to 4. Verify is 5 and 6. So if I go back down, you don't have to do them all. I'm just going to do n as 2 for the first one. So 2 times 2 squared minus 2 times 2 plus 1. The answer for that is 2 squared is 4. 8 minus 4 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So that works. Then if you verify, it has to be above it. So I'm just going to put 5 in. So 2 times 5 squared minus 2 times 5 plus 1 equals, so verify is the bottom 2. So if we work that out, that is going to be 41. Don't forget you have to write your sentences. So you have to write when you're testing that this matches the value in the table. And when you verify, you have to say this matches your value that you predicted. Right? And the last thing we need to do now is justify. So if you go back to the table, they kind of usually help you. So here, this is talking about the total number of squares. Total number of squares are made up of red and yellow. So if I add red and yellow together, it's going to equal the total number. So if we look at the actual rule, red, I know what the red squares equal. I need to work out what the yellow ones equal now. So again, it's a quadratic sequence. It's going to go up in plus 4, plus 4, plus 4. So if I go to the bottom, it was 0, 2, 8 and 18. So 2n squared is going to give me 2, 8, 18, 32. You have to minus 2, minus 2. Just minus 2. I'm the problem again. Sorry guys, it's been a long day. That's minus 6. 6. That is minus 10. That is minus 14. So here it's going down. Minus 4, minus 4, minus 4. So the nth term is minus 4n. To go from minus 4 to minus 2, you have to add 2. So the rule for the yellow is 2n squared minus 4n plus 2. So if I add the red plus the yellow, it has to equal the total. So in this question, 2n minus 1 plus what we've just got, 2n squared minus 4n plus 2. So 2n squared stays. 2n minus 4n is negative 2n. Negative 1 plus 2 is going to be plus 1. And that equals the total, and it matches.